Well, welcome everyone to the Basics of Planned Giving webinar given by the Episcopal Church Foundation. My name is Jim Murphy. I'm the Managing Program Director for Financial Resources at the Episcopal Church Foundation. It's wonderful to have you here tonight. And I just want to thank my hosts who will be in the background watching the chat messages and watching whether or not you've raised your hand. So thank you, Julie Lytle and Terry Mathis, for taking care of that in the background. Tonight, we're going to be focusing in on planned giving. But before I delve deeply into planned giving, just a few caveats, if you will. This is the first time that I've personally had to do a video webinar, and you'll see me moving around a lot because that's what I do when I'm in person. If you've ever seen me present in person, and normally I do this by audio, and I walk around my office. But unfortunately, due to the pending snowstorm and being afraid of getting caught in New York City, I chose to work at home today and do my first video webinar from my living room. So welcome to the Murphy household. It's great to have you. Just a few beginning things. For those of you who don't know about the Episcopal Church Foundation, we are an independent and lay-led organization, which is quite rare within the Episcopal Church, but we are very proud of that. We do a number of things to empower congregations through two main areas, the first being our leadership resources area, where many of you may already be familiar with our vestry resource guide or possibly with vestry papers. And you may also know that vestry papers is now an online version called ECFVP for vitalpractices.org. If you haven't checked that out, don't worry. After this webinar, we will be sending that to you as a link. So no worries there. The area that I oversee at the Episcopal Church Foundation is called financial resources, and that is a number of different areas of concentration. We assist Episcopal parishes, dioceses, and related organizations in the raising of funds through a number of different ways, through annual giving, through planned giving, which we'll talk about tonight, as well as through a capital campaign program, which we are able to do on a sliding fee scale with any Episcopal entity all across the country. We have a geographically dispersed set of consultants who would be very happy to assist you if that is something that you need. In addition to that, we have an endowment management area, and as I'll mention later, we are more than happy as a part of our mission to empower congregations to share with you our own best practice documents for endowment and gift acceptance policies so that you can build trust and awareness about these important gifts. In addition, if you do have the need, we can also help you manage your endowments. All right. Well, without further ado, let us get a little bit deeper into what we're going to be talking about tonight. I always like to start with the basic understanding of planned giving as an extension, a natural extension of Christian stewardship. And all of the work that we do at the Episcopal Church Foundation in helping Episcopal parishes, dioceses, and other entities raise and manage resources all comes out of this understanding of Christian stewardship, that we are responding to God's love and sharing with others and sharing with the church out of our abundance. Now, when it comes to raising funds, actual funds that you're raising from individual donors, there are some very important aspects to keep in mind regardless of the type of funds that you are raising. The first aspect is vision and mission. You need to be able to tell people what you are raising those funds for. And more today, you need to be able to explain how what you're raising funds for, whether they be annual funds, capital, or whatever, how they figure into your overall vision for what you're seeking to do as a parish. Secondly, policy and structure. This is crucial, but regrettably, many Episcopal parishes don't do a great job at putting policy and structure in place. And this element allows people to understand that the gifts they give will be safe and used for the purposes that they would have intended. That's very important because you're seeking to build trust with these policy and structure, and that goes in a number of, for many things, such as budgets that are easy to understand, as well as endowment and gift acceptance policies. The third element, when you're raising funds for the mission and ministry of your congregation, is educating and enlightening. This is the incarnational stage where you're helping people to grow in generosity and to make that important decision to give to your parish or to your diocese or Episcopal institution. So all of these elements are important. They are even more important when it comes to planned giving, and I'm going to get deeper into that right now. And again, if you have joined us recently and you have not muted your phone, you could please do so now. That would be very helpful. And if you have a question, you may certainly raise your hand or type into the chat message. Okay. There are three basic types of giving. The first type is often called ordinary giving. This is typically seen where people are giving their annual gift, their annual pledge to your parish. People give this to you out of their current income, and this is an important aspect. Out of their current income, they are giving this gift. And it goes to support the ongoing daily operations. Secondly, there's extraordinary giving or extraordinary giving, depending where you come from in the country. That's most often seen within the context of a capital campaign where there was a very clearly defined set of goals, whether that is building new facilities, refurbishing existing facilities, or building endowment, which we in our capital campaign areas are seeing happen more and more. Individuals give this special type of gift, this major gift, typically through their assets that they are holding. The third type of giving is called ultimate giving, or planned giving, or legacy giving, and that is the type of giving that we're going to focus in on this evening. These are gifts which individuals give out of their estate or out of assets that they're holding for retirement. Now, you can read this description on your screen for yourself, and let me just let everyone know you will be getting these slides, so not to worry. They will be sent out to you following this webinar. The word I want you to focus in on in this description is the word future. And this is the first central principle of planned giving that I want you to understand, and that is planned gifts are future-focused gifts. Very, very important. The individuals who are giving them are seeking to participate in the future mission and ministry of your congregation or entity, and they give this gift typically after they've passed away. So it's extremely, extremely important for them. Okay, and if we could just mute that last person who came on, that will help cut down on the feedback, please. Whoever just came in, if you could please mute your line. Thank you. So these are future-focused gifts. If your parish has the very, very bad habit of consuming those windfall plan gifts that you might receive in the regular operating income of your parish, what you are actually doing, which is very dangerous, is you are teaching those who are considering making a planned gift to your parish that that is what you will do with their gift. And this will create a disincentive for that person to actually give you a gift. And so it can be very, very detrimental to your planned giving efforts. Now, if you can imagine with me for a moment on this, on these three types of gifts, an upside-down pyramid. And since you can see me, I'll draw the pyramid. So at the base of the pyramid, at the top, you have ordinary giving, and at the tip of the pyramid, you have planned giving. What that represents is the number of gifts that you would typically receive as a parish. So that you receive the largest number of gifts as annual gifts or ordinary gifts, and the smallest number as planned gifts. Now, why on earth, if you're here to hear about planned giving and all of the wonderful things it can do for your parish's ministry, why am I telling you this? Well, I'm telling you this because I don't want you as leaders of your congregation to become frustrated right off the top because you are not statistically going to have as many planned gifts as you'll receive as a capital campaign or as an annual, and that's okay. The individuals who are going to give you a planned gift are going to be your most dedicated individuals. So please just bear that in mind as you begin your planned giving efforts. Don't become frustrated if you do your initial planned giving event and a very small number of people show up at your event. That's perfectly okay. This is your ultimate long-term ministry for your congregation, and it takes several years to actually receive planned gifts, and for heaven's sakes, that's just fine because you don't receive those gifts until someone passes away. So those are some of the basics of the different types of gifts. Now let's talk a little more deeply about planned gifts themselves. You can read the following description that's up on the screen with that beautiful baby, as you can see him. But again, let me focus on two words. And the two words that I'd like you to look at are the words personal values. Personal values. This is the centerpiece of planned giving. And I am now going to tell you, you can see I'm closing my hands because this is the most important thing I'm going to say tonight. And if you remember nothing else, please remember this phrase. When an individual gives a planned gift to your congregation, they raise your congregation to the level of family in their estate plans. They raise your congregation to the level of family in their estate plans. They are putting their church, by giving that planned gift, at the same level of their children and grandchildren. This is an incredible testimony to the passion and conviction that an individual has for the work and ministry of your congregation. And because it is so crucially important to them, it's imperative that you as leaders of your congregation treat that person appropriately and thank them appropriately. Typically, the first thank you would be a handwritten note from the rector. But as is culturally appropriate within your own congregation, you need to thank those individuals to demonstrate that you, as leaders of your congregation, understand how important those gifts are to that individual. Okay, that's the most important thing to remember. There's other important things, and another is, please remember to be patient, sensitive, and gentle. I've added patience in recent years, but always remember to be sensitive and gentle. We are dealing with people's mortality, and this is a challenging thing for many, many people to deal with. However, it's also important, since we're dealing with money and mortality, that you are always very sensitive, that people need to take their own time at their own schedule to make these decisions when it comes to choosing what planned gift is best for them. And so then you as leaders need to remember all of those aspects of being patient, sensitive, and gentle, and never, ever, ever come across as if you're promoting a particular type of planned gift, or that you ever come across as aggressive or pushy when it comes to planned giving, because that will work against you. These gifts are so important to people and to their heart, and they take longer to put together. And for all of these reasons, that is crucial for you to remember. The final basic detail before we get into further information about planned giving is always remember never to appear as if you're giving legal, tax, or financial advice. This is very, very important, because what you are doing in your planned giving ministry is truly ministry. It is an extension of your stewardship ministry. So never appear as if you're giving that specialized professional advice, and always recommend before anyone finalizes any type of planned gifts, that they seek their own legal, tax, or financial advice. Now, if I were with you in person, I would be kidding around with people at the moment on this slide. Unfortunately, I can't right now. So, but you can read this slide for yourself. And what I kid around about is that very, very few people, very few people are able to tell me where this is within our Book of Common Prayer. Most people, if I ask it in a large group, will yell out, well, it's in the funeral office, of course. And I have to very, very gently tell people, well, perhaps, if it's within the burial office, it may be a little late to be bringing up planned giving. Where this actually shows up is in the context of the celebration for the birth or adoption of a child. A very, very appropriate place. Because this is a time, for those of you who are parents out there, I'm not a parent, but I am the proud uncle of 14. I understand how crucially transformational parenthood, when you become one, is. And this is a very appropriate time for you to reflect on those things which you're most passionate about, those things that have mattered the most to you and have made the most difference in your life, for you to consider perhaps making a planned gift through your estate. As I often like to say, we as Episcopalians should really pat ourselves on the back when we witness, where this is in our prayer book, that we have pulled the age range back to the folks who would be hearing this. Quite often when people think about planned giving, they are thinking about the most elderly members of the congregation. I recommend that you raise awareness of planned gifts to everyone, regardless of age or circumstance, and we are appealing to a much younger audience when we read this at those occasions for the birth or adoption of a child. One other quick thing just to remember is that we should pat ourselves on the backs as Episcopalians because we've had this in our Book of Common Prayer since the very beginning. So we should be proud of that fact. So let us move a little bit more deeply. And of course, again, if anyone does have questions, we will have places to pause. And Terry, do feel free that if you wish to break in with a burning question from someone, please do. I am flexible. So very briefly, we have a recap of what's so important and different about planned giving. These are future-focused gifts. They are focused on the donor's passion and a demonstration of a great emotional attachment to the congregation. Again, it raises you as a parish to the level of family in that person's estate. Remember to always be sensitive because we are dealing with estate issues and end of life. The final item, just to reiterate, it should be intrinsic in much of what I'm saying, but given the nature of planned giving, it's crucially important for individuals to build trust with the individual who's considering making this gift, because when this gift will actually be made, that person will no longer be present. And so it's crucial that you are building trust on an ongoing basis, and we'll talk about that later, how you can do that with things such as gift acceptance policies and endowment policies. But also remember, sustain awareness. Continually raise awareness in a gentle and culturally appropriate way in your parish so that people are aware of what they can do. So thank you. I'll pause there just for a moment since we are at a beginning session. That also allows me to take a drink of water. Are there any, no questions? Okay. Well, thank you. Why don't we delve a little bit deeper? And again, if you do have questions, type that out and we will address them. One thing, one important factor I do want you to walk away with from this evening is that there are many, many different types of planned gifts. We're just going to touch on some of them tonight. And after we touch on some of them, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the basic ways you can get started. And we're then going to pause because I know many people can't sit through an entire 2-hour webinar, and that's what we're anticipating for tonight. So that's why we recorded it and why we've broken it up in this way, because toward the end of our discussion tonight, we will be talking about implementation, and it's at that time that we'll have much more interaction and hear from some people on what they have done. Okay. There are many different types of planned gifts, and we'll talk about bequests in a moment. We'll talk about life income gifts, which are somewhat more complex, but not to worry, and I'll explain why in a moment. Let's talk for a moment about some other types of gifts, such as 401ks or 403bs or IRAs or other tax-deferred accounts. Now, people my age, I'm 45, and younger, have heard of these things called pensions. We're really not sure that they exist. We doubt it in many ways, but most of us, and a great number of Americans, have most of their retirement assets held in these tax-deferred accounts, and they're great. You're able to put away money while you're working, and then once you retire, you're able to start taking money out, and you pay taxes on the money when you take it out. Now, something that a lot of folks don't give much thought to is when they pass away, and if they have a large amount still left within their tax-deferred account, who will receive that remaining balance? If it's left to a person, and I'm not going to get in tonight all of the complex tax issues, but if it's left to a person, that will typically be very highly taxed. However, if you leave the remaining balance to a charity, such as your parish or the diocese or another Episcopal entity, that charity receives that gift completely tax-free without paying any of the deferred taxes. So it's a tremendous gift that you would be making to your congregation. Another item that folks don't always think about very much is life insurance. Now, I'm not going to get into the more complex side of life insurance, where you would be able to do a wealth replacement with life insurance. But one thing I will mention that anyone in any parish can raise awareness of is that practically every insurance policy, you can put the beneficiary to be your parish or another charity. And that's a great opportunity, a very easy one at that, for individuals to do this. And in fact, if you're blessed enough to have many younger people at your congregation, you may find this is a great way to get them started on planned giving. If they don't have dependents, they could put the church down. They could even put the church down as a contingent beneficiary. And we'll talk more about that later. Real estate. Now, boy, well, real estate can be, emphasis on the can be a wonderful gift for your congregation if planned out well. However, and I will say this, if you are offered a gift of real estate, you will find that your gift acceptance policies are your best friend if you have them in place when people are considering gifts of real estate, because quite often gifts of real estate end up being quite problematic. They can be problematic. I'll give you a couple of examples, such as if a parish is going to receive a gas station. Well, who's going to pay for the removal of the tanks and the environmental cleanup and the assessment on the property and valuing it? All of those things need to be done when you are going to be receiving real estate. There is also such a thing as a planned gift called a retained life estate. What that is an individual gives a gift of real estate, turning over the deed to their property to the parish, and at that moment, they then receive a very substantial tax deduction. But they retain the right to live in it for the rest of their lives. Now, again, could be a very good gift, but only if the individual who's making that gift understands and has communicated this with the parish, that they understand they are responsible for paying for the upkeep, for paying for the taxes and all the other fees, so that the parish does not receive this dilapidated property, which will cost more to get rid of than it will come in a gift. Charitable lead trusts, I'm not really going to focus much on, but let me just briefly say, if your congregation is blessed enough to have very wealthy individuals in it, people who have many millions of dollars in assets, I'm more than happy to share a number of resources from our financial partner, State Street Bank in Boston, and happy to share those with you. Basically, in very short form, a charitable lead trust is a term of years trust. It combines the types of planned gifts and types of other gifts. But what it does, it allows an individual who has around $1 million or more of assets that she may believe are currently undervalued. She could create a charitable lead trust, place the undervalued assets in the charitable lead trust, and for a term of years, the trust would pay to one or more charities an income. At the end of the trust life, those assets would pass either to her beneficiaries or back to herself. It's a very useful tool for some wealthy people who are planning because they are able to place these assets in the trust at the lower value and therefore pay lower taxes. This is a taxable trust. So as I say, if you are blessed enough to have someone who might have need for some estate planning who is wealthier, I'm very, very happy to email you any resources you'd like on this topic. Okay, let's delve a little more deeply. Now I am going to use the hand raising function, but I will ask you to put your hand down after a few moments after you've answered this question. And if Terry, you could watch for how many hands come up. How many people right now have an up-to-date written will? And while you guys are raising your hand on that, actually I get to see the number. That's fantastic. So it is a good number. We have 32 people currently signed on, and a very high number have raised their hand. Now that is very encouraging, and that is actually quite typical. It's quite typical when I'm doing a planned giving workshop that the individuals participating actually have made the will. Unfortunately, I'll share a sad statistic, which is that around 50%, and the last survey that had been done was around 51%, of all Americans do not have a written will. This includes people with tremendous assets, people with children for whom they need to specify who they want to care for their children if they were to pass away suddenly. So it's really an unfortunate thing, but I raise this to you now. First for the reason, and you may now put your hands down if you like, for the reason that if someone has not, I'm sorry, the hand raising had distracted me for a minute there. The first reason I wanted to say was because this is a part of the ministry of planned giving, that you are helping people to face up to their own mortality and to deal with the issues of writing a will and understanding what are the institutions, the individuals that you wish to pass your assets on to. So that's very, very important work for individuals to do, and very important for them to get their wishes followed. However, I also mention this because if someone does not have a bequest in their will to your parish, the state government, the federal government will not have the largesse of charitable intent to just give you one anyway. So just bear that in mind. There needs to actually be a request in place, a bequest in place for you to receive that. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about bequests because they are quite important when it comes to planned giving, and the reason why you can see plainly on this slide is that 80%, the vast, vast majority of all planned gifts come from a bequest in a will. And so what this should mean to you is that although I strongly, strongly encourage you to raise awareness to everyone, regardless of age or circumstance, about the different types of planned gifts, at least that they know the different types so that they can choose what's best for them. The majority of your work at your congregation should focus in on having people put a bequest in their will to you, because that is where most of the gifts will come. And that's because people have the power to change that bequest. And that is a comforting factor, that if they needed to or wished to, they could revoke that designation in the will. Okay. Now let's talk for a few minutes about the different types of bequests. There are several. The first being specific dollar amount. That's what you would think would be. I leave $10,000 to the Church of the Transfiguration in New York. Something like that is a great gift. However, it does not take into account inflation. And so then $10,000 today will certainly not be that same value 40 or 50 years from now. And if you happen to still have your microphone on or your hand raised, you can please lower your hand or please mute your microphone. Okay. Now, so that's true about specific dollar amounts that you would give. The second problem, though, if you do specify a specific dollar amount, is that specific dollar amounts must be paid first out of your estate before any other allocations can be made. This is a very, very important thing to remember, because sometimes, well, most of the time, I guess, you really can't anticipate what your health will be later in life. And sometimes you may have tremendous health bills later in life. And unfortunately, that can sometimes consume the vast majority of your estate. So that if you were to pass away and had many different specific dollar amounts in your will, those dollar amounts would be paid first before any other allocations would be given to any other heirs that you may wish to designate. And you could actually not leave as much as you wished to those heirs that you did wish to leave a gift to, because there's no way to know for sure how much of an estate you will have. Now, what we would recommend that you seek to always raise awareness of, and which is a better option than leaving a specific dollar amount in your will, is a percentage. A percentage will still allow you to demonstrate that level of passion and conviction for your parish, but regardless then, if you pass away with a large estate or a small estate, you can still demonstrate that. Also, as a friend of mine who regrettably has passed away, Terry Parsons, the former stewardship officer of the Episcopal Church, used to say, if you can never find it in your heart to tithe while you were alive, you ain't going to miss it when you're dead. So do bear that in mind. Thirdly, specific asset allocation, and this would be where you would say something like you would leave your car to your daughter, your home to your other daughter, and the remaining value would go to one or more institutions. Okay, whoever has their microphone still on, if you could please mute yourself. And we'll take that question in just a moment. So you would allocate those specific assets and then donate the remainder of your estate to a particular cause or parish or whatever the case might be. Now that can be a very, very substantial gift, both intentionally and unintentionally. Intentionally, if you really wanted to leave the majority of your estate, but could be unintentional if you did not take into account the true value of all of your assets. Finally, and then I'm going to take a question, is contingency. Contingency is what you would think it is. Contingent if this happens, if my spouse was to die before me, or if, God forbid, my children were to pass away before me, then this percentage, this amount, this asset would pass to a particular charity as designated. Okay, we're going to pause for a question before I touch for a moment on one of my favorite topics of designation. Well, donor-advised funds I mean, they can certainly be a great opportunity to leave a gift. It allows you to be actively engaged in philanthropic activities while you're alive. So, I mean, that is certainly a great opportunity. Typically, though, that's not going to continue on unless you set up a type of trust or some other instrument after you pass away. But they are very useful to be specified on donor-advised funds. Now, Helen Campbell has her hand raised. Does she have a question, or is she on off mute? Okay. Helen, if you do have a question, please just, okay. there isn't a question. That's good. All right. Well, this is live and in person, as you can tell. So please bear with us. If you do have a question, though, please remember to input them. Please remember to input them into the chat function. Okay. Bequest designations. If I were in person, we get to have a lot more fun on this. But what I would normally ask then, don't raise your hands now, I would ask who in the audience is a vestry member? And then I would ask, well, which would you rather receive, dear vestry members? A restricted bequest that tells you exactly how you have to use a gift? Or, for that matter, sometimes how you must invest those assets? Or would you like an unrestricted gift where you can decide, based upon hopefully your endowment and gift acceptance policies, how you will use that gift? Well, vast majority of all Episcopal leaders would say they would want more unrestricted gifts. And why is that? And that is, of course, because typically the vestry or governing body of the Episcopal institution has the most information, statistically and otherwise, about the needs of the parish, the most understanding about endowments and how those are working. And so they would rather have unrestricted gifts that they can designate as they wish. However, and this is, again, one of these factors to put in your mind when it comes to planned giving, because given everything we've talked about tonight, or that I've talked about, I've been droning on a bit, about planned giving, and how important it is to the individual, and they wish that gift to last for the future mission and ministry of the congregation, there is a natural tendency, a very natural tendency, for that individual to desire to restrict that gift in some way, shape, or form. And it is important for you, as leaders of your congregation, to be focusing on building trust and awareness of how those planned gifts will be used and treated when they are given, so that more individuals are willing to give an unrestricted gift. Okay, very, very important. Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, I don't think that we do. If we do, please do pop them up. Okay, now we get to the more technical part of our discussion for this evening, and I will tell everyone to, if this is not something that will interest you and this is going to be tough for you, more than happy, if you want to take a brief nap, it's okay. I can't see you anyway, so that's okay. And I see that Bill Goodman has his hand raised, and I'm happy to have Terry or someone take him off with mute so you can ask that. And then I'll get into life income gifts very, very briefly. Go ahead. Bill, do you have a question? Okay. Sorry about that, it looks like. But anyone who does have a question, please just feel free to type that out, and we can answer that at a later time. So, life income gifts. These are the more complex types of life income gifts. I'm sorry, of planned gifts. If someone still has their microphone on, they can put that into mute now. What's important to remember about life income gifts is that these gifts, though complex, and I'll explain all about them in a second, are all available to every Episcopalian, everyone who wants to benefit an Episcopal organization. Many people don't realize that we, as the Episcopal Church Foundation, have all of these gifts in place, ready for your donors at your congregation to use. And we are more than happy to work with them confidentially and help them develop the gift that is best for them. And as I say, we can do that confidentially, and I'll come back to why that's so important in a second. So briefly, what is a life income gift? A life income gift is a gift where an individual believes in your future mission and ministry, and they have an asset that they would like to give, but they can't give that gift. They can't give that gift without receiving income back in return. And so there are such things as life income gifts, split interest gifts, mutual benefit gifts, where after the person gives their gift, they're able to receive income, typically for the rest of their life. And as you can see, all of the different life income gifts follow a typical pattern. The first being the donor makes an irrevocable gift, meaning you cannot get that gift back. Because it's irrevocable, and all of this is legitimate and set with the IRS and the federal government, be assured, the donor will receive a charitable deduction in the year they make the gift. Thirdly, as I said before, the donor will receive income. Now, it isn't just the donor. If the donor designates others to receive income, that will work too. Finally, when the last income beneficiary passes away, and it is typically the donor who is the income beneficiary, the remaining value of that gift will go to the parish or the other Episcopal institutions that have been designated. Now, if you haven't noticed already, most folks at your congregation do not want to talk to the rector nor other members of the Vestry or Stewardship Commission about their retirement. They would much rather talk to an objective outsider about these issues in a confidential manner. And that is why I mentioned before that it's wonderful if they are interested in it. Not everyone will be. That's okay. They are welcome to contact us at the Episcopal Church Foundation, and we can work with them in developing these types of gifts. The Episcopal Church Foundation is very proudly a steward over all these gifts for the entire Episcopal Church. We've been doing this since the mid-90s when the Church Center, or the National Church, as we're not supposed to say anymore, as they stopped doing planned giving and gave those responsibilities over to us at the Episcopal Church Foundation. Let's take a very, very brief look. And just so that you know, before the webinar, we sent out attachments with a cheat sheet on all of these life income gifts. So, and if you don't have it now, it's fine. I will send it out again with the recording of this webinar. Okay. The first gift, very briefly, is called a pooled income fund. And that is a gift where after the individual gives their irrevocable gift, their gift is pooled with other gifts of the same kind. That's why the beagle is jumping into the pool. They are pooled with gifts of the same kind. And the individuals participating in the pool receive a pro rata share of income. Now, they only receive income because it is only income, and they don't dig into the principal of the gift. The entire amount of income is taxable, and the amount of income people are going to receive will vary from year to year because it's the actual income that the assets produce. However, because you don't dig into the principal, this leaves the maximum remainder for the charity when that person participating in the pool passes away. However, this is not as popular as it once was when interest rates were sky high. The gift that is the most popular, and really it's around 89%, I put 90% on this slide, but nearly all life income gifts are done in the form of what's known as a charitable gift annuity, or CGA. And if any of you out in the audience tonight went to college and you're about at the right age, you've already been contacted about a charitable gift annuity, or by National Geographic Society or someone like that. Everyone loves charitable gift annuities. And there's a good reason. Charitable gift annuities are a contract which the donor enters with an entity. In this case, for what we're talking about, they enter into a contract with the Episcopal Church Foundation when they make that irrevocable gift. And the Episcopal Church Foundation itself guarantees to pay them a fixed income for the rest of their lives. Now, the income that they're going to receive is based upon an annuity rate, and the annuity rate is based upon their age when they make the gift. So this is a great opportunity for many people doing retirement planning, that they can have a fixed amount of income for the rest of their lives and leave about 50% of the original gift to the charity when they pass away. Now, I have a demonstration of this in a second, but the charitable gift annuity is different from the last gift, the pooled income fund, because you do dig in slowly to the principal over time. And that adds extra tax benefits, but it is also why about 50% statistically will be left for the charity at the death of the individual. Now, a couple of quick things. As I say, I'm going through this quite quickly so we have more time for questions. The pooled income fund and the charitable gift annuity share a few things in common. The first being, you can only give income to one, I'll put my finger up, or two individuals. You can also only fund these gifts with cash or appreciated marketable securities. In addition, because these gifts are somewhat simplified gifts, you can only give these gifts to Episcopal institutions if you do these through the Episcopal Church Foundation. Now, just to close out, the third and final type of gift, of life income gift, is called a Charitable Remainder Trust, or CRT. And I'll get into this momentarily. What's different about a charitable remainder trust in all of its almost infinite variety is that it is its own charitable entity. Because it's its own charitable entity, you can have more than two people. You can fund it with a variety of assets, including real estate, closely held stock, personal businesses, many, many different things. And because it is its own charitable entity, if you create one of these with the Episcopal Church Foundation, as long as 51% of the remaining balance will benefit Episcopal entities and institutions, 49% or less can go to non-Episcopal entities. So if you have a great passion for the environment or some other charity that you would also like to benefit through a charitable remainder trust, you can use this as well. As you can see, it's a bit higher of a dollar amount, and as I say, you can look through the cheat sheet, which you have now or will have later, to get some more details about it, or at any time, any of us at the Episcopal Church Foundation would be happy to speak with you about this. However, I want to point out a few important things for you as leaders of your congregation to remember. The first being that as a part of our ministry at ECF, if you have an individual who might be interested in this type of gift, they can simply contact us at the Episcopal Church Foundation, and we can draft for them the initial trust documents for them and their donor's attorney to review, and we do that free of charge. That allows this whole process to move forward that much more quickly. So it works very well for everyone. Now, I will risk raising hands again, just for this sake. There are two basic types. As I said, there's many, many different types of charitable remainder trusts, and I won't go into all of them, but they fall into two basic categories. The first, typically known as a CRAT, C-R-A-T, or a Charitable Remainder Annuity Trust, which is where a fixed dollar amount is paid to you every year for the rest of your life. The other Another happy-sounding word is a CRUT, a C-R-U-T, a charitable remainder unit trust. The unit trust is a variable amount that is paid. And that's a percentage, a spending rule, if you will. So I'm just curious, who out there would think that a charitable remainder annuity trust, the fixed, is the most popular of all types of charitable remainder trusts? And most people would think that. However, it's not actually the most popular, and I'll tell you why. A charitable remainder trust and the charitable remainder unit trust are both not guaranteed. They are paid out of the trust assets themselves. So if you have to pay a fixed dollar amount year in and year out, there is a much greater risk of you exhausting the assets of the trust and ceasing all income to the income beneficiaries and leaving nothing to charity. Fact of the matter is these gifts are put together primarily for the benefits of charities, and people want them to last. And for that reason, that's why the variable, the unit trust, the CRUT, are the most popular. So for those of you that are struggling through this, I know it's tough sometimes. And my phone at the house keeps ringing, so I apologize for that. Just very briefly, there is a charitable gift annuity illustration on the screen right now. Very briefly, the individual at the age of 80 would receive a 7.2 annuity at the age of 80. And this person would then, if they give a $10,000 gift, that gift would create for them $720 annually paid to them for their lifetime. They also receive a charitable deduction. You can see that on the screen as well in the year of the gift. And a large portion of the payment they receive is actually tax-free. And this is all calculated based upon IRS tables and IRS regulations. So up until the age of their life expectancy, people will receive the majority of this income tax-free because it is a repayment of principal over time. And as I said before, typically about 50% of the original gift, in this example, $5,000 out of the $10,000, would remain for the charity at Miss Smith's death. Now, that amount could be higher, it could be lower, based upon how long Miss Smith lives and on market performance. So there is no guarantee that that $5,000 will be $5,000. It's just the figure that the IRS uses to calculate your tax deduction and the present value of that future amount. So let's just look at another example. As you can see, it's also for two people. You can do that. However, it's still, even with the reduction in the amount that's paid and the reduction of the tax deduction, it still leaves just about on average, and this average is proven true, it's between 50 to 60% on average, is left for charities. Now what's important to remember is that even if there are great market downturns and someone far exceeds their life expectancy, and that gift actually reduces to zero, the individual receiving the income will continue to receive the income from the Episcopal Church Foundation. So that is a guaranteed income that they would receive. So what I'd like to do now is just pause for a few questions, if anyone has them. Okay, I see that people are typing, and that's a good thing. And I'm going to take a drink of water then. Okay. And I can certainly take questions. Don't worry, we are happy to take questions. So please keep typing. Please keep typing. I'm just going to say a few important comments to remember. Good. Here's a question. Okay. Are any of these vehicles at risk from federal tax reform, and is there a difference in tax treatment based upon what state we are in? Well, as of yet, there's nothing out there, specifically targeting the particular types of life income gifts at the federal level. The other thing, though, about tax treatment, depending on the type of income that you are receiving, that can be in full with a pooled income fund, all ordinary income, or in part ordinary income, or again, a shared for the charitable remainder trust. So it is possible, since it is ordinary income, that different states will tax them differently. So you should check with your own tax advisor regarding that. Okay. So I'll take another question when anyone does have one. That's perfectly fine. But let me just put out another couple of things before we delve more deeply and open the floor to more people's questions. And that is, your greatest obstacle as leaders of your congregation, if you're moving forward with planned giving, is a lack of awareness. People don't know they can give this gift to you. But the sad fact is that practically every single charity in this country, and there are over 1.3 million charities out there in this country, they are all seeking to build a similar relationship with your person in your congregation and get that person to give them a planned gift. They're being approached all the time. But for some reason, we're very reticent in the church, and we don't want to bring this up. But the fact of the matter is, remember what we started with planned giving. People make this gift out of a passion and conviction. And there are few charities to which someone has more passion and conviction than their own parish. Please remember that. Do not give up that opportunity, because if you don't raise awareness, many people will just not do the gift. They don't realize they can. I met this wonderful woman a couple of years ago down in Alabama. I travel a lot, if you don't know that already. I travel all across the country talking about planned giving and endowments and annual giving and things like that. And this woman had been the secretary to a congregation for, I think it was 20 years. She had worked in their soup kitchen for 25 years, and neither of those she got compensated for. She was totally dedicated to her parish, but she never made a planned gift. However, when her girls' school that she had not visited in over 25 years gave her a call and told her about a charitable gift annuity, well, she said, that sounds like a great idea. And she created that type of gift with them. A few years later, when this parish in Alabama started raising awareness about planned giving, she really regretted it, because she could have done exactly the same gift to benefit her parish, which was so much more important to her. And she truly believed in the future of the parish. So please don't cede your position to other charities. You do need to be aware everyone is being talked to about planned giving. Make people aware they can do this same gift for you. Okay, I don't see any other questions, but please do type them out. We're going to be addressing them. So if you have a question, type it on out. A few important factors when you're thinking about, well, gosh, who is it in my congregation that would be the most likely planned givers? Well, I'm here to disparage some illusion, if you will. The first being, it will not typically be your wealthiest members. And if you focus solely on the wealthiest members of your congregation when you're doing a planned gift, you may well be disappointed, because there's no statistical correlation between great wealth and great planned gifts. We'll get to this in just a second again. Another mistake that many folks make when they're starting their planned giving efforts is that they focus on the most elderly members of the congregation, thinking that, well, gosh, we've got to do something. I've actually almost had arguments with folks who have called us, who have gotten me on the line and said, well, you know, we have these 3 old ladies, one's 94, one's 95, and one's 96, and they could go at any time. So we want to make sure we're in their will. And I try to gently tell them, I'm sorry, is everyone still hearing me? I just had something come over my speaker. Okay, I presume everything's okay. Okay, sorry about that, guys. As I was all getting jazzed up for this, right? So I try to gently tell them that perhaps you shouldn't think of your parishioners as cash registers. And so I try to instruct people that it's important to raise awareness of planned giving to everyone, regardless of age or circumstance. And there's a reason behind that, is that if people had never had an allocation in their will to a charity, and they're in their 80s and 90s, it's very unlikely that they're going to change that will at the last minute, because they don't want to be accused of incompetency, and they don't want their will challenged. And so then, given this, well, gosh, who are the most likely planned givers in your congregation? Well, the most likely planned givers in your congregation are your most consistent givers over a long period of time. Those are people who have been giving week in and week out for several years, years in and years out. So they're demonstrating through this consistency of giving that they truly believe in the future of your parish, and that they, are passionate about its future. And many times, and I'd love if someone wants to share a story about this, because there are so many, parishes are quite surprised that the person who leaves them a very significant planned gift is someone who never pledged a tremendous amount during their lifetime. And that was because they were holding those assets to live off of during their lifetime. And once they passed away, they were able to demonstrate their sense of passion and conviction for the parish. Now, I do need to clarify something, and it is a little complex, so just bear with me on this. There is a great fellow out there who teaches a lot of people about planned giving. His name is Bob Sharp. He's an Episcopalian too, and has become a friend of mine over recent years. And he loves to do research on planned giving. And one of the things he did in his research is that he was discovering that a very large number of people were rewriting their wills in their 80s and 90s. Now, as I said before, if people never, ever had an allocation to a charity in their will, it's unlikely they would change it. He was looking at people who did have allocations to charity in their will. He was finding for those folks who did have the allocation that there was a high tendency for many of them, when they rewrote their final will in their 80s and 90s, to pare down, to reduce the number of allocations to charities that were being made. What he, he discovered this, and there are many reasons why it could be true, but why many people think it's true is that many secular charities, and I pray that parishes don't behave like secular charities in this way. Many secular charities, when they witness that people are aging and they start giving less because those individuals are worried about outliving their funds, or they stop being as active as they once had been, that many secular charities will pull back and not consider that they'll get a planned gift from those people, and they cut off all communication or reduce it greatly. And as I say, I truly hope that we as Christian communities of faith do not behave in that way, that all of our most elderly members, even if they stop coming to church, even if they do start to reduce their pledge after giving consistently for many, many years, that you will continue to stay in relationship with them, that you will do the right thing and make sure that you are bringing them communion if they're homebound. Make sure you're engaged with them and keep them informed about what's going on in the parish. You should do this because this is the right Christian thing to do. But also, if you behave like some of these secular charities, you may well find that you may also get cut out of the will as well because you broke down the relationship. So please do bear those things in mind. That's a more complex issue, but an important one to remember. There are many, many resources from the Episcopal Church Foundation, and we're going to talk more about them in the next 50 minutes or so. But we're approaching that time, since we've been on now for just over an hour, that many people may just be too tired and may need to cut off, and that's okay. We are recording this for your benefit so that you can listen to it later. And so if anyone is in that situation where they need to cut out, it is perfectly okay. If you stay on, it'd be wonderful if you could. But certainly over the next couple of minutes, that's certainly an opportunity. But what I do want to share with you, if you are going to leave, is that the Episcopal Church Foundation has put together a tremendous number of resources that are available to you so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel at your congregation. One of the greatest ones that we have is the Funding Future Ministry Manual. It's a plan giving manual. You can check it out on our website, and following this workshop, we will be sending you a link to the website that has a great number of resources on it for Funding Future Ministry. You can also, as I mentioned before, contact us if you have donors who are interested in learning more about life income gifts. We can give them illustrations, as many as they'd like. And also, we'll send you this link, which is up on the screen, for episcopalgifts.org. That is a fantastic website which the Episcopal Church Foundation sponsors, and it's free to you. You are welcome to add it to your own website, where individuals can go in there and learn about all the different types of planned gifts, and in the privacy of their own home, can run their own life income gift illustrations if they desire. So some great opportunities for resources. And if anybody does have a question, if Terry, you want to prompt me to answer a question, I'm happy to do that as I'm wrapping up here. Okay, so it's crucial though. If you're going to start your effort for planned giving, that you truly play, as I say, play for keeps. If you're going to do this, you need to sustain the relationship with people. The first is to commit to keep people informed about the different types of planned gifts. And the second part, which is so, so crucial, make sure that you or someone in your parish office is keeping track of when people notify you about that they've made this important decision to raise you to the level of family in their estate plans. And please respond to inquiries. And always remember to say thank you. It is just crucial that everyone is saying thank you to these people who are making this very, very important gift. Now I will once again ask people to raise their hand if they have one of these two items on their annual pledge card. And if you don't have them, I would recommend that you do put them in your annual pledge card at the next opportunity, because they are the building block of your plan giving program. The first being a little checkoff box where it says check off here if you have remembered the parish in your estate plans. Please check off here if you have remembered the parish in your estate plans. This is a crucial thing to know about, because you need to be able to say thank you to those people immediately, and as this slide indicates, to keep track of what they're doing. This is the building block of all of your future endeavors in planned giving. Secondly, does anyone have a line that says, please check off here if you would like more information about planned giving opportunities? Now, that's great. I'm seeing one hand, and that's not uncommon, that it's very, very few people. But I strongly recommend, if you can fit that in, that is your building block for planned giving. So thank you, Bob and Helen. You can put your hands down now, but thank you so much. It's crucial because that's how we start what we're doing. This is a picture of the Funding Future Ministry Manual, which you can order. It goes over all of what I've gone over tonight in much detail and shares a number of stories. It can be ordered from Forward Movement Publications. Now, I'm going to pause again here for questions, and I would love to answer some questions. I know there's a lot of private chat going on, dying to know what's being said. Helen. Okay. Well, Helen, have a great night. Is there anyone who does have any questions? We can certainly take you off of mute so that you can ask your question directly. But this is a time where I'm going to hope we can have a little more interactivity for our webinar tonight, because we're going to focus in on how we're starting planned giving in parishes. And as people are typing those questions, let me just say, let me answer, Millie. I am going to get to, not that question in particular. I'll show you some screenshots of various booklets and brochures, which the Episcopal Church Foundation makes available to everyone. Excuse me. And you can download those for free. And you are certainly welcome to steal the text. I'll say that again later, hopefully. You can steal the text. And you can also, if you want to steal the text for your own brochures, you can do that. If you just want to use our brochures, they are quite attractive, and you can put them at the back of your parish in the tract rack. Also, Funding Future Ministry is a book in and of itself to help guide you and educate you and your leadership about planned giving. So that you can. Okay, and I'll take some more questions as we proceed. Now, the most important thing, as I've tried to say, is that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are tremendous resources available to you from the Episcopal Church Foundation on our website, and that you can put to use right away. And the Episcopal Church Foundation is anxious to help you with this. This is a part of our mission in empowering congregations to do this work. So if you do have particular questions, please reply to the emails that we'll be sending later, and ask, set up a time to chat with us or a phone call, something like that. Okay, as I mentioned before, there is a, well, let me start with this. I beg your pardon. As I mentioned before, there are many different booklets and brochures. Here's a couple screenshots. You can purchase them for a nominal fee or download them for free from our website. And of course, stealing the text is fine with me. And the piece I also want to let you know is that in Funding Future Ministry, as well as in a document that I sent to everyone before the webinar, and I will send again after this webinar, is a document we call the 5-level document. It's meant to be a basic guideline to parishes to gauge where they are, whether they're at the earliest stage or at a more advanced stage. I'm not going to go through every single stage. I'm just going to hit a couple of the highlights so that we can have some more opportunity for discussion and questions. But just basically to understand, some of the baseline things that you need to do are what I mentioned before about making sure on your annual pledge card you do have that note asking people whether there is a, whether they have remembered the parish with a planned gift. Also, get these brochures. That is a great opportunity. And another, which I'll also remind everyone in our email, that if you don't already have endowment and gift acceptance policies in place, the Episcopal Church Foundation is happy to share for free our best practice structure documents, which will help you set up the structure and guidelines for having an endowment in place and for helping guide people on how best to make a gift to your congregation. And I think there is a question coming up. Okay, I see it coming up here. Is the issue with planned giving that it puts the emphasis on the organization rather than on the individual? Seems to be concerned. If I'm understanding that correctly, as we started, and I hope this was very clear at the beginning, each person has to figure out for themselves what gift is appropriate for them, and they should be seeking their own legal, tax, and financial advice. That is crucial. You, as leaders of your congregation, are doing all of this work in raising awareness of planned gifts so that individuals, if they choose, can raise your parish to the level of family and give that type of a gift. So this is a natural extension of your stewardship ministry in helping people to better understand how they can be stewards of those gifts even when they pass away. Now, with respect to planned giving, and this is where I was talking about momentarily ago with endowments, most endowments are built with planned gifts, and here's why. If an endowment is properly handled, it is being managed in perpetuity for the future mission and ministry of the congregation, and it's not being invaded in its principle, and hopefully you're using an appropriate spending rule to use the funds from that endowment, and that the parish is not overly dependent on it for its operating income. Now, if that is true for your endowment, many of those factors about an endowment correlate perfectly with planned gifts, where it's future focused, it's meant to last for the future, and enable the parish to do its future mission and ministry. And for that reason, most planned gifts fit very well into the endowment itself. So please do bear that in mind, that that is a central factor and why it is so important to have in place very early in your process your endowment and gift acceptance policies. Because those policies, and as I say, ECF is happy to share our best practice policies with you, those help build trust and confidence so that individuals will be more willing to give a gift to your congregation. Okay. A couple of factors, and as I say, you'll have these slides, so you can read through them as well. And as you read through the 5-level document that we'll share, or as you read through Funding Future Ministry, it all will head to the same place, where you start small and slowly, and that is perfectly fine, hopefully with 1 or 2 leaders in your congregation, basically learning more about planned giving, putting in place endowment and gift acceptance policies, and slowly over time growing the number of individuals who are involved with your planned giving efforts. Now, in time, and it is up to your parish and your own style and culture for how and when this happens, and the Episcopal Church Foundation is happy to help you as you move forward with this. Excuse me. Over time, you want to put in place an actual committee that will oversee your planned giving efforts. And the people that you want on your committee are not, I love attorneys, I love accountants, I love financial advisors, and though it's great if you can have some of those people on your committee, the main thing you want to focus in on for who comes on your committee is, can that person speak or write from the heart about why it was important for them to give a planned gift themselves? Now, that's crucially important, regardless of the type of work that they do professionally. And as I say, it's great to have professionals on the committee, but the first factor is, can that person express or give a testimonial for why it was important for them to make this very important gift. And the reason why that's so important is because of the nature of planned gifts. The nature of planned gifts is it's a very emotional decision. It's a hugely important gift for the individual. And so then, it's great if you can create a planned giving committee which will be led by someone who will make sure that things are done on time, contact us at ECF and share our resources, but make sure that other members of the committee are all able to speak or write from the heart about why it was important for them to give this gift. And that is because they are your human resource for planned giving. Because those individuals can be the people to write the article on your website or in your newsletter, or to stand up at appropriate gatherings like your annual meeting and to tell people why it was that they had made this important decision. Because by giving this testimonial, it will really turn the hearts of many people who may not have considered it before. So please just bear that in mind as you're going through the particulars. And we have some webinars for you to look at regarding legacy societies, which I'm going to talk about next. But I'm just going to hit a few points on, if my screen cooperates, that is, on legacy societies. And then I want to open the floor to more questions for the group. So if you do have questions, please do type them out now or raise your hand, and we will have Terry take you off of mute for those questions. Okay. As you're moving forward in your planned giving efforts, gaining more leaders, gaining people who can talk about why they have chosen to do this, as you're moving forward in this effort, if you hadn't planned for it already, you are probably ready to consider making a legacy society. Now, what a legacy society is an opportunity to formally say thank you to the individuals who have raised you to the level of family in their estate plans. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's crucially important for you to say thank you in culturally appropriate ways. We have found at the Episcopal Church Foundation that over time, by putting in place a legacy society, you are able to, on a regular basis, raise awareness about planned giving just by mentioning the legacy society. Now, the reason that is, a legacy society, in our opinion, would be one of the most open opportunities for the members of your congregation to participate in. We would recommend that you keep the membership requirements of the Legacy Society as open as possible, so that anyone who has notified you that they are going to remember the parish through a bequest, through an insurance policy, through their 401k, through whatever, through a life income gift, that they are welcomed into joining the Legacy Society. I would even go personally so far, and I was talking to some folks in Atlanta about this weekend, I would go so far if people have notified you that you are a contingent beneficiary of any kind, that you would considering also inviting them to become members of the Legacy Society. And the reason is you want to have people in the circle, if you will, at heart of this, because if people have gone so far to just consider you as even a contingent beneficiary, they are very, very serious about their commitment to your parish. And so I personally think it's better to include as many people as possible and keep this circle as wide open and inviting as possible. Just by virtue of explaining what a legacy society is at any particular time, you automatically raise awareness about planned giving to the rest of the congregation. Just by mentioning there's going to be a dinner or a luncheon, or that you'll have an induction ceremony during a service next month, you automatically raise awareness of people to inquire, well, gosh, how do I become a member of the Legacy Society? And you demonstrate opportunities to thank people for making this very, very important commitment. Now, there are many different ways to create a legacy society. As I say, we have a webinar that we did, and I see the question, that there are many different ways to do a legacy society, and we have a webinar that gives some perspective from 2 parishes, one on the East Coast, one on the West. But I do want to just throw an important idea out there for you to consider. Oh, well, okay, I'll give you a couple. The first is, if you are considering creating a legacy society, the first thing is you need to plan your initial event. And what I would recommend you consider is look on your parish calendar about a year, possibly a year and a half into the future. Try to find an appropriate date. A great date would be if there was going to be a significant anniversary of the congregation or of the church or something like that, and where you're going to be celebrating the past and holding up the present and looking toward the future. Those are great opportunities to have as your inaugural Legacy Society event. Then what you can do, once you've appointed that date, you can plan out a calendar. And we will provide for you in this 5-level document 2 calendars, in fact, for you to stage out events over the course of that year or so. You can do it on your own schedule, but what you're doing is you're giving people enough time and enough opportunity and space for them to reflect on, well, which planned gift is best for me? And during that time, hopefully you're having adult forums, sharing other information, maybe sharing one of our webinars that's made for donors, and allowing people to consider, well, what gift is best for them? And invite them, that anyone who tells you during that year or so that they can become inaugural members or founding members of the Legacy Society. It can be sometimes something that motivates someone to actually make that planned gift and notify you. Okay? So that's one important thing. Related to this is what you do on an ongoing basis. As I mentioned before, playing for keeps. It's crucial that you do continue your planned giving efforts year to year to year, that you don't just stop after focusing on everything for the first year. Because the danger is, and I've seen it time and time again in many, many parishes, people get excited about planned giving for a year or so, and maybe they'll have their inaugural Legacy Society event and one more event the following year, and then it stops. Or it wanes to almost nothing, and then maybe every 3 years they have a Legacy Society event. Let me just tell you, that is very dangerous too. Because if you stop thanking people for this crucially important gift, there is a risk that they will think that, well, you're only interested in the money gift. You're not interested in sustaining the relationship, in their vision for the future mission and ministry of your congregation. So I recommend every year, once you have the Legacy Society in place, every year you look at your next year's calendar, pick a date so that you are accountable for when you're going to do a Legacy Society event. You can have a less lavish Legacy Society event in certain years. That's perfectly okay. You can have a simpler one. That is fine. But at least once a year, you need to have an event to say thank you to those who've raised you to the level of family and to continue that awareness throughout the year. So you really need to commit to this relationship for the long term. There's a lot more to be said about Legacy Societies, and I am more than happy to work with your congregation on them. They're actually quite a lot of fun. Designing them, designing the pins that some people would have, designing, this is my favorite picture that's up right now, designing the logo. It's fun. It's all fun. And of course, that's crucially important, to have fun when you're doing these sorts of things. There is a question that I do want to answer. The endowment and gift acceptance policies, those are documents with which the Episcopal Church Foundation has, and we are happy to share them with you. I'll be sending out a follow-up email with the recording of this webinar, and when you receive it, if you need those endowment and gift acceptance policies, please just email us back. We have found that it's important for us to work with a parish individually to finish out those policies, because each parish typically has a few exceptions, and we like to help them, and we find it helps you as a parish put these in place that much more quickly if we can have an initial conversation with you and then share those documents with you. So, but we're more than happy to share them with you. They are yours for the taking once we can have a brief discussion. We just want to make sure that they are fitting for your circumstances and help you to customize them for your particular circumstances. The reason being, well, gosh, there are some challenges, if you will. I don't have time to talk about endowments tonight, but you should know, if you as a parish accept a restricted gift for a particular purpose, or you accept a gift for endowment, you are legally bound to either fulfill the restrictions of that gift or hold that gift as a true endowment fund. And those are important factors to bear in mind. Now, there is a question coming up. Yeah, I'm happy to explain that. So there is a difference between the Plan Giving Committee and the Legacy Society. The Legacy Society is the actual membership group, a group to which you are automatically invited to belong to if you have remembered the parish with any type of planned gift. And typically they will be celebrated in some way, often in written form by listing all of their names, or inducted into the Legacy Society within the context of a liturgy, but they become members of this. Now, it won't be every person in your congregation who desires to become a member of the Legacy Society, but you'd actually be surprised how many people would desire to be part of it. The Planned Giving Committee is literally a committee of the church which plans the events, both for raising awareness about planned giving, and is responsible for, let's say, writing letters, if you're going to write letters asking people to consider a planned gift. They might also, the Planned Giving Committee might also create your own planned giving brochure. You may distribute your own planned giving. You may even have people on your Planned Giving Committee that will talk to individuals about what gift might be appropriate for them. So the Planned Giving Committee is the working group. They're the working group that plans everything that's going on, plans out the calendar, and does that work. And what they really, and yes, that's very true. I'm getting a prompt to remind you, which is quite true. Your Planned Giving Committee is also responsible for making sure that there is an awareness on an ongoing basis when it comes to planned giving, so that there are events during the year. They will plan the adult forum. They will put out the various booklets and brochures at the back of the church so that people understand how they can make a planned gift. And they would also be responsible for planning Legacy Society events, making sure a year in advance it's on the calendar, making sure that those things are a part of the life of the parish. As I said before, and this is important to remember, not every parish can rush into creating a Planned Giving Committee. Most parishes have to start a little slower and just have one person. I call that person the Planned Giving Shepherd. I wrote an article, which I'll also share with everyone who is on this webinar tonight, where you sometimes start out with one person just as a Planned Giving Shepherd, doing the quick start of planned giving in your congregation. However, over time, that Planned Giving Shepherd can become the Planned Giving Committee Chair and can guide the rest of the members of the committee in their work of planning. But the crucial factor is that everyone who's on that committee can speak or write from the heart about why it was important for them to make a planned gift to the congregation. Okay. I know there's a couple other questions. I will send a link to everyone, which will be one of our webinars. One of our webinars was a donor-focused webinar. It's not a video like this, thank God. It's not a video like this. It was done by audio, but it is for the donor. And it goes through all the different types of planned gifts. It lasts about 45 minutes. You can, if you are the planned giving shepherd at your congregation, take that link and give it over to a member of your congregation who just wants to learn in the privacy of their own home about planned giving. You can also play it within the context of an adult forum. If you're thinking of doing something like that, one really effective way is that you can have a couple of individuals from your planned giving committee stand up within the context of that adult forum, give a couple minutes of witness for why they've chosen to make a planned gift, and then play the 45-minute webinar that's been recorded. It's accessible over the web, so it's very useful. Okay, so hopefully that answers the last question that had come up. And again, I'm happy to continue answering questions, but as people may already know, the Episcopal Church Foundation is dedicated to empowering your leadership in many, many ways. We do that in a number of different ways, through publications, through websites. We also do it more and more through webinars like this. Webinars that we have recorded are the ones that are listed up on the screen. We have several others that are coming up that I'll list in a moment. But please know that these are all available to you. We're more than happy to share the recordings with you so that you could gather together at another time and play this webinar. You may be playing it right now, for all I know. There are also some upcoming free live webinars that are available to everyone. And they are, as I say, free. You are welcome to participate as you wish. Many people will gather together around their vestry table and project onto a screen our webinars. And that allows them to have immediate conversation right after the webinar on how they might implement some of those best practices. So you may consider that for your own congregation. Some great webinars are coming up, and please, if you have more questions, please type them up or raise your hand. I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have tonight. There's some fantastic webinars coming up, such as our Church and School Capital Campaign webinar. As I have mentioned before, the Episcopal Church Foundation has a fantastic capital campaign program where we're able to work with you on a sliding fee scale. And we have consultants all across the country that we can get to your parish to work with you. And we also do a lot of work with church-school combinations and schools in general. And so next week, on Wednesday, we'll be having one of our expert consultants talking about how do you coordinate one of those campaigns, because they are not always an easy thing to do. We are also, as you know, dedicated to helping parishes create endowment structure. And a big part of that is putting in place an appropriate spending rule. Crucially important that you're not overspending your endowment, because by overspending your endowment, you're actually quite often living off of the gifts of previous generations instead of taking the responsibility for your stewardship today. We're also going to have a couple of great annual stewardship webinars coming up on April 9th and April 23rd. One will be about communicating impact on the April the 9th. The other will be making the case for your parish. Why should someone give to you as your parish? This is becoming a very, very important thing to consider as so many people are coming to our Episcopal churches with almost no experience of stewardship or of the Christian church in general. So you do need to prove that your parish is worthy of receiving those gifts. People are going to be generous. People are naturally generous. But you often have to demonstrate the impact that you're making. And finally, there'll be 2 other webinars that Terry Mathis, who is hosting my webinar tonight, I hosted her webinar a couple weeks ago, will be coming up on April the 16th on the basics of a capital campaign. You're more than welcome to listen in on that. And Terry is an excellent presenter on video, I must say. She'll also be doing one for diocesan staff on cultivating major donors. So great opportunity. So as we wrap up for this evening, a couple of things I just want you to go away with, and that is the Episcopal Church Foundation is here to help you. We have tremendous resources. We've shown you some of them tonight. We're going to be sending you links to them as well so that you can do the work that God's called you to do in your own particular circumstances. If you need particular help with your parish, we are more than happy to have a conversation. We're also, as I mentioned before, happy to help you with putting together your endowment and gift acceptance policies. And we have Ken Quigley's handsome face up on the screen. Ken is our person who focuses in on endowment management and is more than happy to help you in your parish to finalize those endowment and gift acceptance policies. And certainly, if you have further questions about how to invest your endowment, even if you have a small endowment as low as $10,000, we at the Episcopal Church Foundation are more than happy to help you with that with our own endowment program. But there's just tremendous resources that are available to you at the Episcopal Church Foundation. I'm going to take some questions as we close up for tonight, but I'm also very happy to say that we have Meg King, who is our new Assistant Program Director. Meg, if you'd start your webcam, we can show people your beautiful face. But Meg has recently joined us as the Assistant Program Director, and Meg is the person that you would be contacting directly if someone has the need for a particular life income gift, or if you need resources from the Episcopal Church Foundation. Meg is our person in the office for handling those operational details. I am traveling around a lot and managing the operations of our financial resource area. So I'm certainly available to have conversations with you, but your most direct connections will be with Ken and with Meg. John Webster, you have been unmuted and have your hand up. Would you like to ask a question? John, you are unmuted, so if you want to try and ask a question, you certainly may. Okay. If anyone else has a question, you can certainly raise your hand now, or you may type it. I see people are typing. Now, some people might have had problems with their mic, and that may well be our problem that we are having tonight. And I fear Meg may not have a video camera at home, so she may not be able to come on. We have somebody who has been taken off of mute. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now. Go right ahead. Ask your question.
I am a priest serving in Australia, and I have experience of the Episcopal Church, the Anglican Church, in both South Africa and in Britain. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about planned giving, immediately what comes to mind is, I think, what you refer to as annual stewardship. The regular giving that people are doing week by week or month by month. And what you are referring to here as planned giving is I am specifically used to knowing as bequest. Is the different wording important at all? Does it have any particular significance, or is this just a cultural difference?
Well, it's a crucially important difference, as we had started the different types of giving. And if you could mute your phone, because it's going to cause a reverberation to everybody. It's a crucial difference. Annual giving that you're talking about is given annually, typically out of people's income that they have earned for that year, and it can certainly go up and down, and is regularly something that you're asking for year to year. Planned giving is a different type of giving where people are making their gift out of their estate or out of gifts or out of assets that they're holding for their retirement. And it's called planned giving because it's of a nature, because it involves one's estate for after they pass away, one typically needs to plan for it. And they have to typically work with professional advisors to finalize. And since they're typically much larger gifts than anyone will ever give otherwise in their lifetime, they are actually typically the largest gift that someone would give in their lifetime. Planning is essential. And so they need to be spending the time to talk to their family, let their family know that they're doing this gift, work with professional advisors to finalize that gift. So it's a very big difference between the two. And I see Ron Hayes has his hand up, and you're unmuted. Ron, if you'd like to ask your question.
Actually, my question kind of had to do with the difference between an endowment and planned giving. Is an endowment planned giving after it happens?
Well, yes, but you can also give an endowment gift while you're living out of your existing assets. As I had mentioned before, we're doing a lot of campaigns now, capital campaigns, where either a part or all of it is raising endowment funds, which are from living donors, giving a gift to the endowment. Planned giving is, if you will, it revolves around in the same universe, around the same orbit, because when an individual gives a planned gift, it typically ends up as a part of what the parish would call its endowment, either specifically going into a true endowment or what's known as a quasi or board-restricted endowment. They are very closely tied together because most individuals, when they leave that gift, are anticipating that it's going to end up being in an endowment fund, which will be held for the long term, for the future benefit of the congregation. So the answer to the question is basically yes, but you can also raise endowment funds through other means. It's also possible, given your endowment and gift acceptance policies, that a particular planned gift may come to the congregation, and the congregation may make a choice not to put it into the endowment, but to put it towards some other important endeavor. And let me just clarify that, because this is an important factor when we're talking about endowments and planned gifts. You don't want to spend a planned gift directly into the annual operating income of the parish. That demonstrates to people that you'll do that with their planned gift when they give it, so it will disincent people from wanting to give you that type of a planned gift. However, it's important for people to have an understanding that the planned gift, goes through a process, and that it would be used for the future mission and ministry of the congregation. There are occasions where the parish might decide not to put it in the endowment. My own parish in New York City, Church of the Transfiguration, which is also known as the Little Church Around the Corner, which is quite famous if you know it, made a recent decision where they received an unexpected planned gift. And though a large part of it went into the endowment, there was an active choice to refurbish our outside garden, because so few parishes in Manhattan actually have an outside garden. And so as to be more welcoming, to draw more people into the parish, and to enhance our future opportunity to draw more people in, we used a part of that planned gift to refurbish it. But what we did is we put a plaque up, as well as made it very clear that this refurbishing of the garden is due to the benefit of this planned gift. So in doing it in that way, in talking about it very openly, and not hiding the fact that that's what we did, we were able to demonstrate the importance of that planned gift and encourage others at the same time. So I hope that makes sense. I think there is another question about endowment. Yes. Well, the question is, does the parish set up the endowment, or does a giver ever set up an endowment? Well, yes and yes, or either. It depends. It is possible for a parish to set up a fund which they will call an endowment. And I would invite all of you to listen to our Basics of an Endowment webinar, which I will be circulating to everyone, or to listen in on our Spending Rule webinar next week to learn more about this. But yes, if a parish receives an unrestricted gift and the vestry of the parish chooses to set up a fund that they will treat as an endowment, where they will invest it like an endowment and take a spending rule from it, an income from it like an endowment, but not over time consume the principal, that is what is called a board-restricted or a quasi-endowment. A future vestry has the power to invade the principle of that kind of an endowment, because it is not a true endowment. A true endowment is where the donor has said specifically when they give the gift, this is in addition to or to create an endowment fund. When the donor makes that specification, that creates what is known as a true endowment. And as I say, you can learn more about this at our other webinars. So the donor can certainly create that endowment. If the parish accepts it, they must treat it as a true endowment fund, and it is then governed by a group of laws typically called the UP-MIFA rules, the Uniform Prudent Management of Institutional Funds Act guidelines. And that means you must invest those proceeds prudently, as a prudent investor would, in a diversified portfolio. You can only spend then a spending rule, an appropriate spending rule of typically between 3 and 5%, and we'll talk about this next week on our webinar. But for a true endowment fund, which may even be restricted to a particular purpose, in fact, you may not legally invade the principle of that endowment fund. And that's a very important difference. So what we need to do is close up for tonight. We are almost at our closing time. So I will invite folks to ask one more question. Oh, my clock may be a few minutes ahead then. Sorry, I'm being told I have 5 minutes left. Awesome. Well, I have 2 minutes left on my clock. So I'm happy to take another question. But again, please know that the Episcopal Church Foundation is here to help you, to empower your parishes, to empower your leadership, especially in these areas of planned giving. We have many other things that we do to help develop leaders. And I invite you to check out all of our websites and all of these opportunities so that you can take advantage of them. So let's see if we have any final questions. Is UP-MIFA essentially a prudent man law for nonprofit endowments? Yes, it is. It is accepted. It is in place now in 49 of the 50 states. It is not in place yet in Pennsylvania. And we can certainly give you links to the UPMIFA rulings, but they only apply specifically to true endowments. And I know someone is typing a question, but if I may indulge, since there are so many questions about endowments, and we work with endowments quite a lot, I'll just digress for a sec. UPMIFA is a law that was passed, as I said, in 49 of the 50 states. Previous to UPMIFA, there was something called UMIFA. The uniform, I can't abbreviate it now, but the UMIFA standard. Now, the UMIFA standards were an improvement on the previous opportunities where people would simply, in the old days, simply invest in financial instruments that would produce income, like dividends, interest, and rents. UMIFA came along and set up this thing known as historic dollar value. And this is the big issue to know in its difference from the new UPMIFA. UMIFA focused in on the original historic dollar value of a gift. And let's say your parish was given $100,000 to have an endowment to pay for vestments, let's say, and you had accepted it many years ago. Well, the UMIFA, the old rules, would have required that if markets were difficult and that value of that fund for vestments ever dropped below $100,000, the original historic dollar value, you could spend nothing more from it. However, the UPMIFA rules impose different standards where you are required to invest those funds as a prudent investor would in a diversified portfolio, and you can only spend a percentage of the assets. In the old way, people would dig deep into their endowments and spend anything that had appreciated in the value, up until they run into problems where they drop below the historic dollar value, and then they could spend nothing until it went above that historic dollar value. The UPMIFA rules help you to invest as a modern investor would, and help to contain that you don't overspend on your endowment. It would be possible in very deep declines in the market that you would slightly dig into the principal in 1 year, but over the long term, since you'd be using a consistently prudent spending rule, over the long term, you would recover those values, and you would essentially not have dug into the principal over the long term. Okay. Well, just wanted to thank everyone who has participated in this webinar tonight, and everyone who's listening to it after it's been recorded. It's wonderful to have you with us tonight. It's wonderful to work for the Episcopal Church Foundation and serve the Episcopal Church in the ways that we do. Thank you, Terry, for hosting the webinar tonight, and thank you, Julie Lytle. For those of you who may not know Julie Lytle, she is a fantastic resource in the Episcopal Church, and she is currently very active with our Province 1, the New England Diocese of the Episcopal Church, in helping all of us in all over the country in using technology like this to enable our ministry that much more effectively. And if you're at a diocesan level or looking to have more opportunities to meet in this way, please just email me back, and I'm happy to put you in touch with Julie. She has been a tremendous resource and a fantastic teacher for all of us at the Episcopal Church Foundation. So thank you all for coming tonight. We're going to close up. So have a wonderful evening. And please do visit us again. Visit our website, ecfvpvitalpractices.org. Visit episcopalfoundation.org. And certainly visit episcopalgifts.org. Yet again, another website, all for your resources. And